People can say no. You know, I don't want to say anything today but my name and where I am. We've developed just saying a name. We start off by saying a name and where we are. I'll start that in a moment. Have I missed anything out on the credo, Mary?
I didn't notice anything.
No. We must get that card, and then we must make sure everyone's got a copy. Anyway, yeah, as it goes round, I ask people to say something because that just seems to work best at the moment, rather than because we don't want anyone missed out. So, yeah, I'm Peter, and I'm in Norfolk in the east of England. Do you want to go next, Victoria? Not there. Stacey?
No, she's there. She's just muted.
Oh, Victoria?
Sorry, yes. I'm Victoria, Paris, France, planet Earth.
Okay. Shelley?
Hi, I'm Shelley. I'm in Woodland Hills, California, which is part of Los Angeles.
Okay. Nasha? Nasha, do you want to? Maybe we're not connected. We'll come back to it.
You
can't hear me.
There. I can hear you now.
All right. I'm Nyasha, and I'm in Oxfordshire in UK at the moment. And I'm here with my friend Panaka, who's visiting me to say goodbye because she's going to Ghana every weekend.
Thank you.
And Panaka is Pellin trained.
Oh.
Yeah. Time. Stacy?
I'm Stacy, and I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. Mary in England?
Mary, I'm in East Sussex on the south coast of England.
Okay, thanks.
Is that in Eastbourne, Mary?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I've got foster carers in Eastbourne.
Ah.
Cynthia?
I'm Cynthia. I am in Kankakee, Illinois, which is just a little south of Chicago.
Okay. Cease?
In Tampa, Florida. This is Cease in Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Mary, not in England?
Mary in Rosarito Beach, Mexico, half an hour south of the border.
Okay. Anyway.
You forgot Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth, sorry.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth from Eugene, Oregon, in the middle of the Willamette Valley.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I have said recently that I'm getting more comfortable with this, but somehow today I think I've got stage fright. Partly, yeah, this is very, very new to me. And I guess I'm still sort of adjusting to it. And at the same time, wanting to be up for it, wanting to use it. Because, you know, all the work that some of us here in different ways want to do with kids and young people. This is their world already. They're very comfortable with it. So what I want to talk about today is what we now call Pellin Chair Work, which some of you knew was all those decades ago as hot seat work. It comes from a man called Fritz Perls, who developed a school of therapy called Gestalt therapy. And I guess that has always been one very significant arm of Pellin. And I think, yeah, as you know, I talk a lot and I put out a lot of ideas. I put out a lot of theory. But as we've heard here, recent meetings, often what people take away is that there's some chair work they've done. And what it is, to make it clear, for people for whom this is new, it's using two chairs. So we've got one chair placed there, one chair placed there, and we use two chairs to have a dialogue with different parts of us. And those different parts of us might be what we call a polarity. They might be a decision we have to make. There might be a relationship we're in them around which we've got ambivalent feelings. Might be a decision we're going to make around which we have ambivalent feelings. It might be the formality of it. It might be someone in our past, a mother or father, sister, brother, best friend, grandfather. It's a particular exploration of what's going on inside us. I think it's a little bit like describing swimming without the pool. So I want to be a bit careful just not to go on and on. And, Mary said she'd volunteer. I'll demonstrate it a bit myself because I always feel that as practitioners, we should be prepared to do that which we ask our patients or clients to do. So I almost always start off two chair work just demonstrating it. So I'll do that in a minute. One way to look at the aim of two chair work, where we've got a lot of energy, a lot of creativity, a lot of love tied up inside us that is tied up because we have unresolved issues. Chair work is a way to get those unresolved issues out in the open. It depends on, I want to say a couple of things about safety, because Pellin's priority, and that's why we want to start off with the credo, Pellin's priority is always safety. And, that goes back right from the beginning. And so in terms of chair work, I just want to say a couple of things about it. If someone doesn't want to do it, don't push them. If someone enjoys talking to the furniture. Maybe they need to see a therapist, okay? I mean, it's arguable that it's an odd and awkward activity. I said that as a joke. So if someone doesn't want to do it, that's a no. And, you know, as I said in other sessions, if someone says no, they don't want to do something, we never push them. And we listen to that no. We don't use the no to diagnose somebody from that. That's something quite fundamental work, well work. Also, if someone's particularly fragile, don't use 2 chair work. I have a sort of rule that it's never a good idea to use 2 chair work around issues of sexual abuse or child abuse. To say why, there are issues around where control is fundamental and a sense of control is fundamental. And 2 chair work, in a way, is giving up control. And we have to make an assessment. If someone doesn't want to give up control, that can be a very healthy thing for them. But we're not pushing them. The way we have passive listening to know, to go back to last week's work, Sunday's work, I mean, we don't have power struggles in our form of therapy, because someone can just say, no, I don't agree with you, all that fun, that comes back. If we have, my point of view is, if we have to insist on a particular method, whether it's mine or somebody else's, then that is, I believe, is a necessary insistence on the professional person having power. And in that sense, it's disempowering to insist on a method, and also it lacks imagination. You know, if the only way I can work with somebody is a particular formula I've got, and they don't like that formula, well, you know, I should have enough going for me that I can do something else. We know always do something else. Just being a little bit pushy because it's our basic values, and just staying on this point for a moment. My position is, if I want someone to look at something and they don't, well, and they say no, either I'm going to have another time to work with them, so it doesn't have to happen today. Or if I'm not going to have another time to work with them, what am I doing being pushy? So it's my ego involved in that, not the client's best interests. And as I said about passive listening on Sunday, you know, it's just slowing things down so they can be healthier, and in terms of those of us who work in the field, more accurate. Okay, is there any questions about it? Mary said she'd volunteered. Before you go.
I thought it might be helpful for people who are not practitioners but are maybe new to the whole idea of Gestalt to just set a little context for what it feels like as the person going between chairs. That I volunteered to work on a simple thing that's an example of a huge issue for me, but I've just chosen one little thing. And even though I've thought about how I can overcome my resistance in this area, I know that the other chair will give me a surprise. And that's part of what Peter was saying about the safety thing, is it does get into parts of us that we're not consciously aware of, that like a hidden dialogue. You're having a hidden dialogue so much of the time with resistance and objections and things. And this is just like putting that resistance and objection on the chair, but I don't know what's going to come out. And I'm kind of excited because I've been struggling with this issue for years. And
Yeah.
but it comes up in lots of forms. That's why I can give you one little specific thing for a
Yeah.
demo.
Just to, because well, I've not ever done this in this form, and it's not quite the same as, you know, teaching the pendulum or teaching contribution from work as we've done. It's a bit different. So this is me stepping into new territory. I want to be able to do it. And as a practitioner, I do a lot of work on Skype, a lot of work on the telephone. So that's not unusual for me. And it's new for me to be doing it in a group. And I guess I want to, yeah, put the safety factors in very fully, that if someone's interested in this, and if we're getting into doing it here, I would suggest, and I will do that in a moment, you can start off with something positive. It doesn't have to be a problem. There's a sort of odd twist in just the history of our field. It happened to come from medicine. And you don't go to see a doctor unless you're sick. So there's an unfortunate thing in the psychotherapy and counseling field. Well, what's your problem? That's the point of entry. And I think what we've developed with Pellin and contribution training, someone can just do this stuff without having a problem, or without having to talk about their problem, or without having to talk about the biggest thing that's going on in their life, you know, the largest financial, sexual, political scandal I have in my life at the moment. And that's where the hot seat, the term hot seat came from, because it was guys who are in a treatment program for serious heroin addiction. So, you know, they'd sit in this seat, and actually the way that worked, they'd be sort of fired upon by a whole lot of other people, and they were forced to look at that which was fundamental, because they were there to treat this, you know, one of the hardest things in the world to turn around, heroin addiction. So, you know, as it's developed out of that particular pattern out of medicine, and that's why I changed the word hot seat, because, you know, the trepidation, I'm going to sit in the hot seat, what's going to happen to me? Oh, I'm all nervous. And so someone can come and sit what we call the empty chair and work on something that's positive in their life. Doesn't have to be something negative. And I'll just demonstrate that, because I've got a chair and an arm of a couch. And the reason I want to demonstrate it is that I feel we should always be prepared to do that. As practitioners, we should be. A man called Martin Buber, who was a great philosopher, developed something called the I-thou, and that is the basic relationship between people having some equality. That's fundamental to our work. So I feel if I'm teaching it, I should be prepared to do it myself in front of other people. Okay, so I like my books and my art objects, okay? And I like them a lot. And it actually, I'm one of the people for whom, and I have to be locked down because I'm in the, you know, the most vulnerable category because of my age. I don't mind the lockdown, okay? And partly I don't mind the lockdown. Yeah, I got a park across the road. And my place is big, and I've got a lot of books. So, you know, the cliche time to catch up on reading. So that's what I'm putting out here, okay? So I'm in this chair, I'm the Peter who doesn't mind the lockdown, doesn't mind the self-isolation. And the other one is going to be the Peter, but I built this, okay? How do I feel when I say that? I built this. It's what we're going to look at on Sunday, which is the levels of listening. And that's what we call voice. It's almost a different voice. So I'm the one who, I'm just enjoying it, okay? It's a little bit harder than I said. So I'm now talking to him. He's the one who built it, okay? Sitting over there. Well, it's a little bit harder than I said, but it's still, I just love my place. It's on 2.5 levels. I'm looking across to my big kitchen window that is just full of a tree that just blossomed. I think it's an oak, chestnut. So yeah, I've got a lot of strength here. Now, you're not looking for a problem when someone's talking about they've got a lot of strength, okay? Now, what are you hiding? You say, you know, which can be almost a trap for those of us who are in this field of work. Yeah, there's a strength in me having this. Okay, can you say something to him? He's the one who built it. Well, I guess what I want to say is I'll keep your secret, okay? Because your secret was what a mess it was. What, 6 years ago now, I think. What a mess it was. I'd open a cupboard and there'd be sort of old linoleum or old wallpaper. Okay, so as a practitioner could say, okay, be over there. Be in the other chair, okay? And be the one who said those things, okay? So what you've got here are 2 chairs. You got the one who's sort of, hey, times are hard, and I'm doing well, given the hard times. And the other one, uh-oh, it was a secret. So don't know how this will work. So I'm going and sitting in the other chair, okay? And then the other chair, I'm going to be the Peter who built it. Yeah, I sort of, you're right. It was pretty awful. And my kids didn't want me to do it because I said, you know, Papa, it's too much. But I did, and it's worked out. Okay, what do these 2 got to say to each other? I'm just giving you a sort of quick introduction to it, okay?
Peter, do you mind if I just say, because you're saying it's not clear that you mean doing your place up? I don't think it's clear.
Yeah. Well, I bought a place that, you know, colloquially is called a do-upper, and it was very ramshackled, and I did it up over these years, and it's now just absolutely lovely. I love it. So I'm the one, I want you to enjoy it, okay? I don't want you to sabotage anything about just enjoying it. Because I worked hard for that. It was not easy. I don't want to, yeah, I'm saying no here to say how really, really difficult it was. I don't quite want to go there here. But I want you to enjoy it. That's a demand. I want you to enjoy it. And then you have the person change and sit in this chair and just listen. And it's one use of passive listening to someone who's trained in passive listening, because that's what we do and we do it all the time. So when we're doing this sort of work, we can say, come and sit over there and listen to what that other Peter said. And then you might want to say to him, so he made demand on enjoy it. Okay, in this chair, you're the Peter who's absolutely okay with these very difficult times. What is the demand you want to make on him? Well, the demand I want to make on you is that you keep doing it, okay? I mean, you don't have to, there aren't big projects anymore. But I do want you to, you get so much out of it. You know, you get so much out of decorating. You get so much out of fixing something up. So I want you to do, you know, some paint around the windows where they're a bit grubby. Yeah, keep doing it. I want you to keep doing it. Because I think it's good for you. I think it's really good for you. You know, you made it a commitment to Nicola that there are no high ladders. So you've got to give up high ladders at your age. But you can do other stuff that's very safe. And then you say, go over there and sit in that chair and listen to that. Just listen, just passive listen. It's the use of passive listening. And so here I'm just listening. Yeah, okay. And then you can
Peter?
say, yeah.
It's kind of similar to TA, to transactional analysis, except there's no labels.
Yes, yes. It's similar to TA, but there's something about, I feel, and you know, I trained with a guy and I've used it for all these years. So, you know, I'm not saying I'm an outside observer of this, but to me, there's something absolutely magic about this. And the thing about one of the differences, and this is not quite the way we do it, but that's almost for another time, when we bring in how in Pellin we use what's called feedback, okay? That's a couple of weeks down the road. But Pearl's in doing this was absolutely insistent that we don't put any interpretation on it. We don't put any interpretation, we don't put any analysis. It was absolutely rigorous at the end of his life, which is when I studied with him, that you don't do any interpretation. In fact, he had rude words to describe those things. We've got to get out of our head and just into, the practitioner's going to get out of their head and just into following what the person is saying, not putting any interpretation on it. As you can see, in terms of what we did last Sunday, you know, that was one of the places where I was reinforced in developing passive listening, because this guy was saying, you know, if you're putting your interpretations in, rather than just following the chair work, following the two chairs. Used to say, following where the energy is, but not putting interpretations on it, not putting our intuition on it, not putting our therapeutic model on it, but just what the person is saying. And to me, that's the magic. That's where the magic comes from. I guess I just want to say this. I think it's appropriate. But, and I still feel it over all these years. I find it just extraordinary what comes out. But in a way, the practitioner is there just to follow. That's where it's, the whole thing is very influenced by Zen. When Fritz Perls developed this part of his work, he was in California, Big Sur, a place called Esalen. And he was very much part of that West Coast, San Francisco Renaissance, very powerful. There was an Englishman called Alan Watts, who was a clergyman, and he went there, and of course, and he set himself the task of taking Western thought to Japan and Eastern thought to America. Western thought to Japan for America, and Eastern thought from Japan to, in particular, California. So there's a certain Zen quality. I can be most there if I'm not pushing. I can be most there for you if I'm just following. So there's a real relationship between the underlying values and, to me, the source of the magic. Because the source, and he said very clearly, the person who's doing the work is the client or patient, not the practitioner or therapist. If the practitioner or therapist is mainly doing the work, we're probably not going to go anywhere. This is a part of Pellin now, it's not all of it, but I think the magic in chair work is having some of the purity, and I use that word on Sunday when I talked about passive listening. We can hit this spot where we have the sort of purity of it, then extraordinary things come out. So the difference to TA is we're not putting a label on it. Anyone else want to ask any questions about that? Mary, you said you want to do a piece of work, as we say.
Victoria and Elizabeth would like to ask questions.
Yeah, sorry.
Mary, do I need to do something? Like, do I need to unmute something? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Elizabeth.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Peter, when you were talking about the application of passive listening by the therapist, it really linked for me with how the most positive aspect of applying pendulum work is for the therapist to be able to bring him or herself to that neutral position prior to beginning hot seat work with someone, because the ability to be in the middle of that pendulum for the therapist really permits that sort of observation without judgment to really occur. I mean, not at Pellin, but I mean, in other circumstances, I've seen folks come in and be a little off center, when they begin working with someone. And it's like someone put down a mask, okay, or a filter through which the information is going to come in. But when the therapist is right in the middle there, it's, you know, that is the magic, you know, because you have no blockades, right?
Yeah. He said, because this is how it's so much different time and age. He said he could do that as long as he had his cigarettes, okay?
Right.
Yeah,
That was his pendulum. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's funny to think of that, but you know, he would not do this work unless it wasn't even a question of whether he could smoke. I guess it was like Humphrey Bogart or something. You don't question someone.
Right.
And you're right, it is that when you're absolutely there for someone, and that's one of the reasons I put. Anyway, I don't want to anticipate the work on listening on Sunday, but it is not having the filter, not having ourselves, an absolute best. And this is a word very Zen. It almost as if we are not there.
Right.
And because we are not there, the other person is so strong.
Well, that comes back to what Buber talked about too, that at the moment of I thou, neither are there. There's almost like a third force of that communication that has been established, but the individual personalities have stepped aside for the moment, and they're just in the activity of communicating.
And I guess one thing we've got in this work a lot is being able to get inside someone else's skin. And we're approaching that socially and politically as well as therapeutically. Because, you know, can we get in the side of the opposition? You know, that was when I said Sunday, you know, practice passive listening by switching on the opposition on television and try and passive listen to them.
Right. Trying not to get riled up.
Yeah. Mary, in England, I'm sorry, Mary Guillermin, do you want to do some work?
Victoria's still waiting to say something, Peter.
Oh yeah, sorry, Victoria, I didn't see it.
Okay, you just offered to ask a few questions, so I have a few questions. Because in the beginning, I was using as a practitioner chair work a lot, but you say like you're not putting the names on it, and yet you say, well, this is the Peter. Is it like defining which character, which part of you you're talking? This is the Peter, you know, putting the name. And then I feel, for me, it's just sharing my experience that working with two chairs is when the client is present in the same physical space, it's one thing. As I've now been working for quite a long time also online, I think that it's very difficult, this physical, because the physicality of you as a therapist watching and holding the space of someone physically moving the chairs and and me being present in this space is very different from the virtual experience of it. I think from the other person as well, because it becomes like almost like a model, but not like so the physicality of it, which is so important because changing personalities. So this is the thing. So to sum up, the first thing is, like you said, naming it, and yet you name which part of yourself you're talking to. This is my first question. And
Well,
I have two more, but they're smaller.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That one where, you know, we've got that one sort of nailed. The chairs are identified by the client's own words, not by the practitioner's words. So, okay, in this chair, be the Peter who likes his life right now. I didn't say that. You know, I said, I'm okay with the times where everyone else is having a hard time or times are really hard. Okay, in this chair, be the Peter who's okay right now. So you try, and some of this is the levels of listening and passive listening. You train yourself to hear, so the labels on the chairs are the person's own words.
No, that I understand, because that's
Yeah.
the sense
So
of it. The person presents different parts, but it's still presenting.
You're choosing them. There's no question you're choosing them. You have an editorial role, and you're right about that.
This is something that it's important, because I use a lot of internal family systems, like where there are more than 2 members of the internal family, and they all are presented. So it's just not like chairs, it can be like many chairs of one person, of personalities, but the idea is still the same, looking at yourself. This is the part of my second question. Like this, the 2-chair work, is it like more intensity or focusing on something that client is working on, or if you have like the whole internal family presented, it's just like more vague, or what is it, like what do you think about it? Because before I never used it, but now it became.
Yeah, I just think, you know, there's lots and lots of different ways to do therapy. I've chosen essentially 2, you know, David Pellin and Fritz Perl. And as you know, anyone who knows Pellin training, you know, Pellin training has never been a survey course. It just hasn't. You know, it's been these particular specialties. So, you know, that's our that's our approach. And, you know, which I guess we want to get, if we get into the circulating diagram. We say over and over again, and in my writing, I use that diagram over and over and over again. You know, we've only got our little part of the whole truth. Could you see the diagram? That makes sense or not? Anyway, we draw that line, a little segment in the middle, or to the left. And that's the little bit we've got. We're not saying we've got it all. So how this would adapt to that other approach, I think it would just be many different ways.
Can I say something about that? I've never practiced internal family systems with a practitioner, but I've read a bit about it. And I was very intrigued by the fact that in Gestalt work, I'd found out that if you praise protective, now become obstructive function in the other chair, if you say, wow, you did a really good job of, you know, it's often like the inner critic or something like that. And if you say to that chair, you did a really good job in protecting me there, I really appreciate what you did for me, then the opposition in the other chair becomes, this is my personal experience, I'm not theorizing from it, starts becoming cooperative, because what they were trying to do that's become harmful to the other person in the other chair has been noticed and appreciated. And I think that in internal family systems, that's called the protector personality. Am I right about that? I think they're called the protector. Anyway, the point is that, as you'll see in the, I hope you'll see in the little bit of work I do in a moment, it's like those members of the internal family system might manifest in one piece of work, like the inner critic, to call it that for the moment, with whoever the other side is that day. But it kind of, my experience, purely from reading and seeing a bit of internal family systems, is it's a way that in Pellin we've chosen to have a focus on one thing at a time, you might say. I don't know how that strikes to you as someone who's used internal family systems more, Victoria, but that was just my take. You've suddenly gone, so we can't hear you, even though you're not muted.
Oh.
Can't hear you. Victoria, I can't hear Victoria.
You there, Victoria?
Still can't hear. Somehow your microphone function's been lost, Victoria. I don't know why.
And like this, is it better? Okay, but there are people here. I just want to say that thank you very much, but that was not my question. My question was something different. And it's like the Pellin work, which is focusing on 2 chairs. They're just 2, and this is focusing on something, right? And in this internal feministism, we just drop them now. But my question is it giving it more intensity to what's happening and focusing, rather than just using the whatever other tools when there are more sub-personalities presented? Because these are just 2 chairs, like one talking to the other, and it's more focusing. That was my question. Not that something is, you know, like as a tool.
Right. Yeah, sorry, I didn't understand the question.
It was nothing to do with like comparing something, or it was just.
No. I sort of come on a bit differently, like tools. It could be either, it certainly can provide focus and intensity. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, going back to those Zen roots, something that's small and something is diffuse, okay? And bring in a whole lot of different people might be just as useful. So I think, I'm sorry I'm not answering it directly enough, because I want to keep it broad. I mean, I do think there's some real magic and some real power in this approach. And I guess I want it to have a range from something that's very, very intense to something that might be just diffuse, but hey, it's good to look at it. And in this chair, be yourself. In the other chair will be all the other members of your family, and a looseness about it. That's what I'm looking for. And I think it's the looseness that he had as a practitioner, because my view of Fritz Perls was that he was not a very good theoretician, and he wanted to be the great theoretician. But he's the best practitioner I've ever come across, by far. And I'd seen Carl Rogers, I'd seen Eric Byrne, just because where I was located geographically. It was just a historical thing. I was in Vancouver, Canada, and Americans loved to come to Vancouver, Canada, because it was safer. And to be absolutely frank, there weren't many Black people there. So Americans loved to come to Vancouver. So the universities had all these things there. So all these great names came through Vancouver. And because of the person my boss was, they all came through the prison I happened to work in. You know, Maslow, Perls, Rogers, all of them. Perls had something, and there was something that he had that was loose. So there's something about that I want to sort of try. And then within the looseness, we have a lot of responsibility to listen, to not interfere, to know when our own ego is coming in. And, you know, people who, and sometimes you can't know. You know, someone can do a piece of therapy that seems unimportant. And they'll come back and tell you, 10 years later, that was the most important thing ever happened to me. And with someone important, you can hardly remember it. And someone else does this fantastic piece of 2-chair work. And in 2 years' time, they're back doing the same fantastic piece of 2-chair work. There's something about the looseness that I want to convey. And probably, I know I'm going on about it a bit, sorry. But I also want that to be part of these sort of forums.
Shall we do the quick demonstration because we're nearly at the top of the hour with only
Yeah,
half
why
an
don't
hour
you
after
talk
it.
about, okay, go on.
So I'll just choose a chair, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of physical problems, tightness in my hip flexor and intermittent pain in my knees. And each one of those problems has one really simple exercise that absolutely works. The one for my knees, I think it was after I broke my elbow and bashed my knees a bit. I kind of couldn't get up and down. And this one simple exercise brought my knees pain-free. And that's some years back. And for maybe 8 years, I walk around with a minimal pain, and it's not bad enough to overcome my resistance to doing the simple exercise that I know really works. So that's my starting problem. It's like, and I only did the hip flexor exercise, which is easier to do. So I have actually done it out of desperation, because where I am, there isn't a spare room. And if this room that I'm in right now is needed, I go to what I call my car office, which is my parked car in the garage. And I was there for 4 hours and I couldn't walk for 2 days because that sitting still in a slightly cramped face meant I was hobbling in a pain for 2 days. And that forced me to do the exercise yesterday. So I thought that might be a good one. So that's this. I guess this is the chair that won't do it. It won't do the exercise.
Okay, so talk about how you won't do it. You said that I won't do it.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know why I won't do it. I have to really hurt before I'll agree to do it. It's just, it's a puzzle to me. As a person who won't do it, it's a puzzle. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to acknowledge that I don't want to use the magic thing that unlocks the pain. It's a mystery to me, even as the person who won't do it. I want to get on with other things. I don't want to be, I mean, I think it's to do with, I don't like things of the body. So even just saying that, I screw my face up. You know, I really love emotions. I really love spiritual things, but the body is a bit like this for me.
So, you know, just say that a bit more, how you screw your face up, and what is that about, do you feel?
Well, I did have a thought this morning I never had before, as far as I know. I thought, I mean, I've got an expression now that's like distaste. I think I haven't released myself from the, you know, when I was really desperate for being loved and love and affection when I was a teenager, and I had a lot of meaningless sex. And I think it's something to do with, I mean, I don't know if that's being a bit complicated, but it did pop in my mind this morning. It's like, ooh, the body, you know. Ooh. It's hard to take the expression off my face. I just want to keep, it's hard to take the expression off my face. I just want to keep making an expression of distaste.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. And this is a small, you know, piece of work in this setting. So I want to go slow, but so I'm just sort of putting out that what you just said, I think is really important, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to go into it in great depth here.
I remembered another simple bit that's less deep than that, which is I do have trouble with anything to do with routines. I don't take my supplements. If something says every day, do this every day, I'm guaranteed not to be able to do it. And And one of the ways I've really enjoyed my work for Pellin since I was made Director of Communications is there's so much to do. I can just keep working really hard, going from one thing to another, and I don't have to have, as long as I get things done, I don't have to have a schedule. That's the other more conscious part of it that's very strong for me.
Do you remember, come and sit in the other chair, or move on the couch, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this place, you said earlier, this may not work. You said earlier that there was some magic there. Do you remember that?
Did I? What, in this piece of
Yeah,
work?
you know,
No.
you could do it and it would do something.
Oh, the exercise is magic.
Yeah, about the exercise. Can you find that voice about the exercise?
Well, it's so simple. The exercise is so simple. I'll tell you what they are. She didn't want to say. One, the hip flexor one, you just lie on your back and you bring your one leg from straight down to up like this, and you just do that and you change sides. And the other one's pretty much doing the same thing, only in reverse, that you have something to hold your ankle and you pull your knee with a gentle stretch towards your buttock, but not so it hurts. I mean, they're both so gentle and they're both so simple, but particularly the face down one, it's like, well, that's her voice. She, you know, it's a bit undignified, is what she was thinking. Yeah. But it's like, I mean, really, I couldn't get out of the bath. I mean, I've had scary times trying to get out of my low bath because I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit down on the lavatory. And this, just doing 2 minutes of gentle stretch, both legs, you can do it as many times in the day you like. And I got better magically, and an orthopedic doctor had wanted me to have 2 knee replacements. And all I needed was this exercise that really works. It takes away all the pain and brings back the flexibility. And I love, you know, and this chair, I really like it. I like how simple it is. I like that it's quite restful. But she won't let me find the time for it. She won't let me do it.
Can you tell her, just keeping it simple, because you know, as you said right at the start, there's a lot here. And some of the things you touched on are fundamental, but we always start with small steps and safety. Can you tell her a couple of ways she sabotages you, and then a couple of ways that things you miss out on because of what she does?
Can I just tell you first that I just started feeling a bit tearful because I was thinking about how beautifully simple the exercises are.
Just talk about that a bit.
Well, it's very special to me that because I found the right physical therapist, I'm not someone who's had 2 knee replacements and all that pain. You know, it's very special to me that it was so simple to just lie it down and gently stretch my leg and enjoy the feeling of that. It's a bit hard to get it in words, so I'm not sure if I just captured it or not.
You're doing fine. Can you expand on that at all?
I think for me it's almost true rest. And I'm not trying to do all the busy things. I'm just quietly looking after my body with these one or both really simple exercises. I think she came in, she said, but exercise is something other people do.
Okay, let's leave her out of it for a bit.
Okay.
See if, no, let me stay there. Can you tell her, she's the one who, in some way, finds it difficult to do, but also finds it distasteful. Tell her how quick she comes in.
Well, what comes to mind is for the one where I'm lying on my front, I have this just piece of toweling with two handles so you can support your ankle while you're doing the exercise. And I have faithfully brought it here every time I visited here for maybe 4 years, right? And I don't use it. Oh, she doesn't let me use it. And I don't know why that came in my mind with the thing you just asked me. I mean, I set it up that it's possible because I make sure. I mean, you can use anything. You can use a thin towel, but it's nice to use the thing I bought from the physical therapist that's tailor-made for it. And I carry it around with me, especially when I leave home, when I think, well, I'm not home, so I'll have less responsibility and I'll be able to do the exercise. And I can be intending to do it on the way somewhere. And then she sabotages me being allowed to get down to do it. Somehow. You said tell her 2 ways she does it. I think she says it's not important. And she only comes on board when she's really in a lot of pain. And then she lets me do it.
Okay, change. Go into the other chair. Other corner of the couch.
Yeah.
Just listen to her, just really passive listen. Can you tell her, this is just sort of taking a bit of a jump, because you said that, yeah, can you tell her what a pushover she is?
Well, you don't exert any will. You don't stand up to me. You let me take over completely. You might look at the piece of toweling every now and again, but you don't even go and pick it up. You don't make any suggestions to me that we could do this now. Or why don't you do it after? You don't do anything. You just let me have complete control of you.
Can you tell her how good you are at having control?
So I'm pretty good at having control of you. I can keep you right under, so you're not a nuisance to me with your demands. Well, I don't even hear your demands. You don't really make them, do you? You just let me have the whole day to myself to do what I choose to do. I don't sound very nice here, do I?
See if you can stay in it, not come out of it.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. So see if you can just repeat a couple of things you said there.
Well, you don't make any demands, so it's easy for me to have my own way and do what I think is interesting.
Okay, change. Come and sit on the other spot. Just listen to that, just really passive listen.
do feel a bit kind of powerless in this chair.
Hmm?
I feel a bit kind of powerless in this chair. This bit's a bit tricky because I can't, she's not over there, she's kind of in the screen there. So, but when
So
you,
look at the other, look as if she was on that.
yeah, I think I have to. Something I just found out by doing this. So I,
Now tell her
yeah,
how you feel powerless.
I don't know. When you just say you have all the control, I do feel a bit weak. I don't know how to make you do, you know, how to get you to do sensible things that help us. I don't know how to find a voice about it. I'm a bit intimidated by your resistance. It's so big.
Okay, change.
Listen.
Because I want you to just listen to that. And then from this spot, who's got all the power, can you tell her a couple of ways? Yeah, tell her a couple of ways you could stand up to her. She could stand up to you, sorry.
Well, I don't know if this is what you're thinking of, but what came into my mind was that when I've eaten lunch, I'm usually too tired to do something like do the shopping I need to do for everyone here. So right after lunch would be a really good time to say, to do the exercises which involve lying down. I don't normally go to sleep. Not like I need to sleep.
Okay, make that a brief practical suggestion. One thing you could do to take some power is?
One thing you could do to take some power is to get the toweling thing when you come upstairs straight after lunch, and we can have the cup of tea first, but you have to do your.
Okay.
I'll let you do the leg exercises.
Okay, and have you got another practical suggestion you could make to her that she could do to take some power?
Well, I'm wondering if she could find a way to walk a bit further. It's a bit hard because we're so near the beach that you often meet soldiers and policemen telling you to go home. But she could walk, instead of walking to the beach or walking to the first roundabout where there's pretty flowers, she could do both. Because I'm very aware that even though I have a dog, I'm not walking as far. We're not walking as far as we used to.
Okay, so just go and sit in the other spot. And I want you just to listen to that. Now,
can I respond? Or?
No, just like you, just to listen. I'd like to end the work there with you.
Yeah.
Just listening to that. Okay. Now, in fact, we have it recorded, so you can listen to it. But the other thing I'd like us to do, just to take a couple of minutes and see if we can just type any suggestions we have to Mary, keeping them fairly short, okay? It's what we call feedback, but we're doing them this way. Yeah, we're going to type them. And that's screen share, isn't it? Is that the one you?
No,
put?
it's called chat. It's
Chat
on the laptop. It's at the bottom.
Yeah, I got
And you
that.
just go to the wherever on your screen it says chat, and then you choose type to everyone would be better. Just type to everyone or not privately, right?
Well, no, we can just send it to you.
Okay, so you can type privately to me. If you put, how does it come up? If you open chat, when you open chat, at the bottom where you type, you can make it go privately to me. If you click on that little arrow.
Well, no, we won't. No, that's silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being privately.
I think it's better to just do everyone.
Yeah.
That's what comes up first, unless you've been chatting to somebody privately. Nasha and Steve told me that privately that they had to go, so I'm just conveying that. Yeah, so just everyone. Have we confused people now? Does anyone need extra help with saying something in chat? I'll put my mute.
Right.
Oh. Did my thing go, or did I delete it?
Says this is the triangle and the Pellin tools.
Yeah. So I did. So I sent it by mistake. That's
okay.
something I do. Yeah.
Elizabeth asked, are we supposed to be giving feedback in writing where the whole group can read it? So I imagine that if you don't want to do that, it's fine.
Yeah, if you don't want to put down any suggestions, that's okay. I'm not sure this, I'm just trying to see what will work. In time, we'll be very sophisticated about this.
That's what my acting coach does. People give feedback in the chat.
In chat, yeah.
Mm-hmm. When it's a big group.
Yeah. So that's what chair work's like. I use the word magic. In my view, there's not magic in it in the sense that if you work terribly hard, you'll get something great out of it. It's more the magic of surprise and the unexpected, okay? And you can't know. You know, that piece of work, had we had longer, it was my choice not to go into that very heavy piece and that very characteristic of the way I work. Now, okay, there's really something. You don't mind me talking about it like this, Mary. You know, there's really something there, the almost feeling nauseous, the, denial of your body, the sex as a teenager, all that. I thought, okay, we're not going there. And in not going there, you can always go back to what someone first said. Well, there's this small bit of work I want to do, and I think it's small, and it's been around, and I don't mind doing it here, and don't just go back to that. Now, there wasn't a message, and this is where passive listening comes in like crazy. There wasn't a message, I'm in great distress, I want to do this really heavy piece of work. So as a practitioner, my view is we stay with the simple, we stay with the safe. And as I said earlier, we're either going to have another time to do this, so it's fine to leave it, good idea to leave it, common sense, or I'm not going to have another time with this person. So what am I doing going into something very heavy when I'm not going to be around to do the follow-up on it? So it's almost sort of routine in Pellin. And to go back to Sunday, if you get into passive listening, then it's not, I don't know where this piece of work is going, which happens to me all the time. I mean, people say I make it look easy and I've got a reputation, I've been doing it, blah, blah, blah. It's still the case. I don't know where this business work's going to go. I guess I have the confidence now that it will go somewhere. But at times it crosses my mind, well, maybe this is the one that's not going to go anywhere, Peter. This is sort of going on inside. And you follow and you follow and you follow and stuff happens. Any other questions? Because we don't have a lot of time, and particularly, go on, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to suggest that that because some of the people are practitioners and some of the people have never done a piece of hot seat work, of Pellin Chair Work or any kind of chair work, I wondered whether it was good to, if people who've never done a piece of chair work were confused about something and try and say so.
Yeah.
If you don't want to say so, that's fine. But if you want to ask for clarification, then please do.
So Cynthia, you got any questions or things?
Yeah, actually, is it something that you can do? Because a lot of the other, tools you can sort of just do on your own. If you need help, you can get it. Is there a way to do this like for yourself? Like if there's something simple that you don't, or is it something that has to do in a?
Yeah, I believe there is, but that's where I want to put all the safety stuff in. It's not like that. I mean, someone my age, well, I do go to the gym when the gym's open, but when I first went to the gym, okay, go see your doctor first, at your age. So, in terms of going slowly and making it safe for yourself, yes, doing all that, but using 2 chairs, very much. And this is not something we've done because it's sort of been a bit, so much around. But, as a group, we could work out some guidelines, because that's what I've got at the gym. And I was told very clearly, you do not do more than that, right? So seeing it that way and not making it,
I don't understand the analogy, Peter, about the gym.
Well, if someone's going to use this, use it safely. And if you've got any doubts, go to your doctor. And the analogy to the gym is they wouldn't let me just go in there and do it however I wanted to at my age. They wanted control over how I was doing it, right? So we could put something down on paper, and it was on paper. Now, I could have been silly, right? I could have gone in there and overdone it and done myself harm. But, I had a piece of paper, and this is what I do. I think we could develop something similar around this. So it is a self-help tool. Now, in terms of that, It's something I've not thought about in years. But, you know, for book lovers, the wonders of Google and Amazon. There's a book called The Little Red Book of Gestalt Therapy. And I can't remember her name, but I knew her years and years and years ago. It'll come back. It'll come back before Sunday. And that was doing it on your own, okay? So you can, and the reason, the analogy to the gym is it's got to be safe. And anyone is responsible to keeping it safe.
I would just like to say, I think it's a little bit hard to do when you haven't experienced it much, but that probably helps keep it safe. And if you were like really distressed and you haven't got haven't experienced it under your belt, it might not be that safe to do on your own. And it's tempting even when there's a therapist there and you're new to it. For some people, this was true of me. For my first few bits of chair work, I was subconsciously keeping the control. And I remember one particular piece, I don't remember what the work was about, but I remember the feeling when I suddenly said, oh, I don't have to be in control of the chairs. I trust this person who was Peter enough to relinquish control. I don't think I used those words, but I had that experience. And so there's some stuff you can do on yourself, like if you had you know, am I going to go out without my mask or something like that? But big stuff, I think, is a bit, my take would be, it was a bit hard on your own when you, you know, even if you are experienced in having dialogues with yourself. I don't know what you think about that, Peter, but that was my thought.
Well, I think we've got the experience and, you know, the safety record that we're the people who could develop it, so you could do it on your own. No, we have that. I'd like to work on that. It'd be fun. Also, it would bridge the gap a bit here between the people who are therapists and the people who are not therapists, and the people who aren't therapists who haven't been in this particular world. You know, we'll make it work for you. Yeah. And that's something else we've got a very long history of. So.
And any other confusions or anything?
Stacey, do you want to come in at all? What it was like?
Sure. I like the magic of the just listening, and that I get to label who I'm talking to. It doesn't have to be my adult parent or child. It can be just different aspects of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. Because, yeah, and just to come back to the point of, you know, going back to Cynthia, you know, we got the pendulum, we got passive listening, we got go slow, we got start with something positive. But, you know, some of us can have, you know, terrible times at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I think we could develop something so safe that what do you got to lose? I mean, we've got safety nailed. We really do. Partly because we work so hard on it, you know. Elizabeth Rosenberg, do you want to say anything?
No, I actually don't. I'm just taking it in.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, will we end up just doing a...
Peter, Victoria just wanted to say something.
Oh, sorry, Victoria. I didn't, yeah.
It's okay. I just wanted to ask, what's the difference as you presented? I always knew what is hot chair, but then you said empty chair. So did I understand correctly that hot chair is not just any work you're doing, but sort of hot and spicy and important piece of work, or something that is supposed to, what is the difference between hot chair and empty chair?
None. I have just changed the name, okay? It is nothing more than a name change. It's exactly the same as hot seat work.
So hot seat and empty chair is the same.
It's all the same. Hot seat, empty chair. Yeah, and historically, Pearl's called it hot seat. Then it became empty chair. Then it became two chair. And then I guess I just wanted to put our brand on it. So we call it Pellin Chair Work. But they're literally just changes of names, nothing else. There's no difference.
Thank you. I understand now.
Yeah. And I wanted to make it not as, and that's worked out because all that happened. And then I started working with foster families, foster carers, foster kids. And yeah, I wanted, you know, I've got all this safety that I can bring in behind it. Yeah.
Can I just say that hot seat term historically applied to a time when you'd have like a big group of 20 people and the practitioner makes the chair empty and then the tension builds up. Either somebody jumps in or so, you know, it's like it's just it's more relaxed in Pellin than the, you know, the 70s. Go to claim the chair. Oh no, I can't. I'm too scared to go
Well, yeah,
sit in the chair.
and that was, I mean, going back to the history of it, it was not just making it more relaxed, it's making it safer. Because I used this work with guys in prisons, okay? And Pearl said I couldn't do that because they're, what's his statement? They all have the character disorders, and Gestalt therapy is not relevant to people with the character disorder. Come on, you know, so he was working with people who are uptight academics, right? And they had to get them in touch with their feelings. I was working with guys who had no trouble getting in touch with their feelings. They need to use their mind. So that just sort of some of the history. So I had to create something that was really safe. Yeah. You know, anyway, that was some dispute between him and I. That's for another time. Yeah, so let's end. Are there any other questions before we start?
I was wondering about you, Shelley, if you had, I don't know how much exposure to Gestalt you've had, or whether you had any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I've done some Gestalt, and you know, I was an actress, so for me doing improv, like kinds of things, is very, very easy for me. But occasionally I've mentioned it to a client, and they'll say, "No way,
yeah, exactly.
Do that. I'm not coming." You know, kind of maybe that strong, but that's the feeling. But I've done it with some of my clients who are more flexible, maybe, you know, like an artistic type person, and it's worked. I'm excited to think about using it. I'm wondering if I could do it now virtually. I know we were talking about that, right? How hard that might be because you're not giving your physical embodied presence to help the client stay safe. So I probably won't do it, though I'm thinking of one of them who might.
Well, the bit I'd say that works, and the joke usually works, it didn't work today, but I do it myself, okay? And literally, I'm particularly sitting in a room with someone. You know, I've got two chairs, so I will do it myself. The thing about doing it yourself, it's just a tip, it's got to be something that comes up spontaneously, not something that's rehearsed, okay? You know, yeah, I've got concerns about my eldest son and me being in touch with him because he's got a health problem. Just so I'm sitting in a room with a client who I know, okay, and just say, okay, I'll do a bit of work on that. I'll do a bit of work on Nico. But it's got to come up spontaneously. it can't be rehearsed in advance. I don't know why that is. It just doesn't work. I find that if you're prepared to demonstrate it, if what you do, and it doesn't have, that was a pretty heavy thing I came up with. It doesn't have to be that heavy. But if it's something that's not rehearsed and you can bring up spontaneously, like awareness continuum stuff. And if you're really ready for someone to say, no, I don't want to do it, just say, that's fine. But I believe that it foreshortens the whole therapeutic process. I guess demonstrating it first is also something about trust. You know, there are all those dimensions there. And of course, your part of the world, we have the terrible example of two-chair work that gave two-chair work a bad name, fortunately only in the Republican Party of America, forever, right? Because that's what Clint Eastwood tried to do, that disastrous convention. So in parts of America, it's got a bad reputation. We're running a bit over, so we'll each say a name and where we are. Yeah, I'm Peter. I'm on the east coast of England. And yeah, that was intriguing for me today. Victoria?
I know it'd be Victoria. So I'm Victoria. I'm in Paris. I moved to the kitchen.
Okay. Stacy?
I'm Stacy. I'm still in Las Vegas, Nevada.
We are all where we started. Anyway, sorry. Cynthia.
I'm Cynthia. I'm in Kankakee, Illinois, a little bit south of Chicago, and I'm very glad to have seen this. This was it.
Okay.
That's about it.
Mary G.
I'm Mary. I'm in Rosarito Beach, Mexico, and I'm completely intrigued by the way it didn't work if I looked in the room, and it only worked if I looked at the empty space on the monitor. And I just thought that was really interesting. Took me right out of it to look in the room. Took me right out of the work.
Yeah, Mary on the South Coast.
Yeah, Mary Stapleton and Eastbourne. It took me right back to two parts of myself that I had lots of fun with doing two-chair work when I was doing the course with you, Peter. My town mouse and my country mouse.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I used to do it on my own very often when I knew that, you know, the town mouse had disappeared and left the country mouse to sort something out, you know, and I found it very useful, and I'd forgotten all about it. So I'm going to go back and have another go. And yeah, you can do it. I found that I could do it on my own.
Okay. Elizabeth in the Midwest.
Elizabeth in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in the States.
Yeah, the other Elizabeth.
The other Elizabeth just typed that she was being called away.
Okay. Cease?
She went earlier because she wasn't feeling well.
Shelley?
Elizabeth Hurwitz.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shelley.
I did it already.
Yeah, Elizabeth did it already. Shelley?
Okay, hi, I'm Shelley. I'm in Woodland Hills, California, and I enjoyed this. And I'm going to try and find out more about how voice dialogue compares to empty chair work. seems like
Yeah.
internal family systems, and there's voice dialogue, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. In terms of, I meant to mention when you mentioned about theatre, Pearl studied with Viola Spolin.
Yeah,
Very good.
I read your you know, the 7
Oh,
where you
okay.
brought up
Yes.
Viola Spolin, so I looked her up, and in fact,
Yeah.
I taught a small group of therapists how to do improv, and you know, of course, I know all about Second City and all. I learned some more foundational stuff, and that was very inspirational. I'd love to be able to apply my
Yeah. You when we
abilities.
meet at another time, you must mention that part of your background to Cease, because she's done tons of psychodrama
Oh, cool.
all over. Yeah.
Ah, that's great.
And I was
Yeah.
just going to tell you, Shelley, that I did a bit of training with Elaine Rosenberg, so I've done a bit of voice dialogue. So I'm interested to discuss how it's different from Gestalt.
Oh, okay. What's the name? Elena wrote.
She was in the thing we were in last night. Elaine Rosenberg. She does voice.
Oh, yes, right. I
training.
know. That's what I'm thinking of doing. I'm gonna probably try hers for Monday morning.
Okay.
Yeah, they're doing it.
Okay. Of course, there are tons of Rosenbergs.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been great, and I hope to see you Sunday. Okay.
Which is the
Bye.
Peter,
7
bye
levels of
everyone.
listening.
See you Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.